Well, today's a day that I would expect to see a lot of tourists.
Oh, yes.
How many people do you end up showing around?
It's hard to say, really. And we have a little basket there, and of course we want them to put their little monies in, and lots of people don't.
Yes.
They don't do it.
No, and I can remember going through, maybe it was Piccolo's Palato maybe many years ago, and they had a lot of things in churches.
Oh,
Okay.
ask Jeanne your name.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
I guess we'll start, Jeanne, if you can introduce yourself by stating and spelling your name.
Hi, I'm Jeanne Schels, and my first name has 2 N's and an E, and my last name is S-C-H-E-L-S, which isn't spelled the regular way either. Again, I spelled my name.
You got the name? Oh, we got that far.
Yeah.
It's only 9:50. A little bit about the relationship. Yeah.
Okay. What would you characterize as your current relationship to Circular?
I just love it. I like it the way it is. I like the philosophy. I like the openness. Because that's the way I am. So
Thinking back when you first joined Circular, what do you recall the size of the congregation being?
it's hard to recall, but I tried to think about that, and I think we seat about 300, I don't know, to capacity. And maybe half to 3/4 at the most.
How about the demographic makeup, the ages, and education and race of the congregation?
Okay, the ages, I would say then, when I came in about 3-4 years after, 70s, maybe early 70s, let's say, were more middle, I would categorize it. And and racial, it was all white. Then later we did get one black fellow who sang in the choir and was just a wonderful young man. And what else?
Education-wise, how did...
Oh, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell that. But I'd say you had definitely people who finished high school and many who finished college, because now we have a lot of career people. But then we didn't have that many that I knew of. Now they're doctors and lawyers and, you know.
And that wasn't the case?
Not so much, but then they may have been here. And what else? The race, the age,
You've talked about occupation. How about interest? Was there...
Not in the community like it is now, no. If it was, it wasn't spoken of, and we didn't have the newsletters, so therefore events and activities were announced either in the bulletin or from the pulpit.
When did the newsletter come around?
That's good. That, I think Mark Deaton originally instigated that. Now, when Mark came and how long he was here, I can't remember. He worked with Bert.
So Bert came almost 20 years ago, so sometime...
Oh, yes, I think he celebrated his, And Bert came when Bob Boston was here. And Bob Boston was the reason I came here in the first place. I heard him in a meeting, AAUW meeting. And I liked what he said. Our girls were just getting into their teens, and it was his little speech about teens, and you better have been there a long time ago on their shoulder, because you can't just jump on now. And I liked it. I said, I'm going to go hear this man, and eventually changed my membership from the Methodist Church in Somerville to here. And I was here so long as a friend that when I finally joined, people couldn't believe it. They thought, oh, she's been here for years. Okay.
When did you actually join as a
I'm not sure. I was going to call Faye and ask her to look in the book. We came here in '66, so give me 4 or 5 years at the Methodist Church. So that would make it, 71, around there somewhere. But I don't remember.
Thinking about the physical structure, when you first came here, how was it different than it is today?
Well, the inside, we had that little electric organ down there, so we didn't have the big organ. Therefore, the beautiful frontage and sides on the big organ were up, closing out the windows over the altar. In fact, for a long time, I didn't even know there were windows up there. If you look from the outside, I'm sure you'd see them, but I didn't do that. So that, and they fit so well around that organ. I don't even tell people. I just say, look at our beautiful organ, and they, you know, because that adds so much to it.
Beautiful.
And what else? They redid the whole thing, gave Faye a good office, and you know, it went around in the back like that, and it wasn't like that before. I don't remember what it was like.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did that renovation occur around Hugo, Hurricane Hugo?
When Hugo was 89, this is 94. I guess it started before that, because we had just, we had just had the whole, inside of the church painted, what with the structures that you have to have up there and all. And then we had rain damage came through, so it had to be done over. So it was before Hugo that we started all of that.
I've been amazed at the amount of wood that's in the church.
Oh, yes.
It's been a huge undertaking to strip all that wood and restore
Oh, we
it.
all took part. We used to be called the Saturday morning strippers, and they used to bring coffee and donuts, and I only did it once. I did all of 7 of those little narrow panels. But they gave us all the stuff, and it was fun when you had a whole bunch, you know.
Yes.
But that took an awful lot of doing. I think Vernon did a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm sure we had some professionals in there, especially in the beams and things.
So you got together as a group on Saturday mornings.
Sort of, and it
got
was
stripper and rags and went along
Oh,
panel by panel.
steel well. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yes. And
That's-
sticky. And big.
Oh, that stuff is really
Yeah.
glue and sticky. That stripper.
And this went on for, you don't recall?
No, I don't know how long it took. But as I said, professionals were brought in, I'm sure. And Vernon. Thank God for Vernon.
Well, I would hope the professionals did those beams up
Oh,
there
yeah.
at the top.
Well, we had a young man, and right now I can't think of his name, but he was a member and into construction. And he did a lot up there. In fact, he did a lot of the painting. And then the second time around, I believe, we had professional painters. But Jim, whatever, he lives in Columbia now, did a lot of that.
Did a beautiful job.
Yes.
It was exciting when
yes.
that was completed. Did you do anything to celebrate the completion of that?
I don't think so. I don't remember. May have had another potluck. We used to be known as the potluck church, whether you know it or not. We had potlucks all the time.
I don't doubt that because I think I've gained a few pounds since.
Yeah.
They're-
Oh, they're
the-
not as frequent as
they're-
they used to be at
They're
all.
so good.
Yes.
And you can walk up to those tables and you'll find a Mexican dish, an Indian, some curry.
Yeah.
You know.
I've learned to like a few things.
Yeah.
Different things
it's a
that
great
I forget what
variety.
it's called. Plus, not, you're right, and not a great deal of repetition. There may be several salads, but they're not all the same.
always
So it's
amazing.
great. Yeah.
Because I always thought church suppers, potlucks, consisted mainly of chicken, fried chicken,
Potato salad.
potato salad,
Oh, yes.
and iced tea.
And
There you
cake.
go. And what? Pound cake? There you go.
But not a circular.
No.
It's like a.
Oh, a few people
An
always bring
international.
fried chicken because it's easiest, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. Everybody eats it. So,
What's next?
Well, how about involvement of circular with community issues? To what extent do you recall the involvement?
back when I first joined,
Mhm.
I don't remember that we were really. I understand that when we went through the period of, I'll call them flower children, that Bob Boston opened it was kind of a place where they could go and play guitars and have cokes, no drinking, no drugs. I believe it was in the bottom of Lance Hall. And several of the older people in the church would chaperone as such. They didn't really do that, but they were just in there. And so that was neat, because no other church was doing any such a thing. They could come in their bare feet and all. And I had one young man who was sitting a long time ago on the church steps after the service. And he was in his overalls and his bare feet and his long hair. And he was crying, and I said, "Is something the matter?" He said, "No, I'm just so touched because a little old lady stopped and said to me, 'We're so glad you're here.'" And he said, "We aren't talked to like that by older people, you know." So our church was doing some sort of thing then, and lots of things started here. Hotline was held in that same lower part of Lance Hall originally. PAR started upstairs, the office was upstairs.
And PAR is.
People Against Rape. So all that type of people-oriented, people-helper type things have started here.
Yeah, I think I've heard that the very first meetings of the Interfaith Crisis Ministry
She had an office up there for quite a
were
while,
at Circular Church.
right?
That was who?
That would be, Floyd.
Floydie.
Uh-huh.
And I think I heard that there were original chapter of AA meetings.
Yeah, they were,
Here.
I say fairly recent, but time flies so fast. They met, well, I was here on Wednesdays, so they met.
Who were they? I'm sorry.
AAU, no,
AA?
Alcoholics Anonymous, thank you. And it was every Wednesday around noon or so. For quite a long time, they met upstairs in Lance Hall. Had their meetings, and you could see them outside smoking. They weren't supposed to be smoking, you know. So, and other groups, I don't remember. And then we turned the whole thing over to the gays. For 6 months, they were permitted to have their service up in Lance Hall, Sunday evening.
And is that because no other church was available? Or?
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm sure it had something to do with it. And I'm sure there were people in here that thought. And we did vote on it.
The council or the congregation had a congregational vote.
I think so. I
on-
think so. I
on
can't
those
remember
folks.
because it doesn't bother me. So,
So apparently the vote was in favor
yes,
of
6
allowing
months. But at 6 months,
Yes.
they weren't here anymore. But I understand they had found their own church. And they would set it all up, and then they had to be sure that they took it down. There wasn't that much, but it was different than our altar. And so they took it all down after they were finished. We had a few gays who were members here, 2 young men
Yes.
that have moved to the east, to Massachusetts, I think. And I don't know how many others we have,
Yes.
because I don't hear.
Well, yeah, and I guess it's not much of an issue. I mean,
Not
the
now.
church doesn't make it an issue, and so
Not this church,
right. Yeah,
but very fundamentalist churches do, I'm sure.
of course. Well, like you know, the acceptance that Circular offers is very important,
Yeah,
and it's demonstrated in substantial ways. like opening up the church to a group that is not very popular in town
Right.
at that time.
That's right.
And I know that, as you say, there have been others other than the ones we've mentioned who have
Oh,
gotten their
lots.
start
Yeah.
here.
I wish I could think of them because I think you had a lot. Didn't you list them? Or did I read them somewhere? I don't
You know,
know.
they may have
but-
been in.
Or maybe they're in Bird's History. I
That's
had to
just what I was
review
thinking
that
of,
because
yes.
I haven't been here for so long as a docent. I had to read the thing
Well,
about
you're absolutely right.
yeah,
Um,
all the
it's-
things that the church.
It's about that second or third paragraph there. I think Hospice of Charleston
That's right.
is one of them. And,
Yeah, here we go. Hospice of Charleston and the Elder Shelter.
The
Molly
Elder Shelter.
somebody, Molly Smith tried very hard to get that going, and I guess it's going. They aren't in the church anymore, but I guess it's going. Interfaith, we have that one. People, Amnesty International, that's another one. And Narcotics Anonymous and Charleston Peace.
yes.
I remember that.
That's
So see, they're all open organizations. They aren't closed things.
Do you think that Circular opening its doors to certain groups did that generate any controversy in the community?
Oh, I'm sure, Nicole. I'm sure. We used to be called way back the Kooky Church and I forget what all. And I like that. I mean, I think that's kind of fun. You know it.
Well, when people ask you about Circular, how do you describe Circular to them?
I say that I'm a very biased person because I love the church. It's a very open church. It's a liberal church. Accepts everyone. Has an open philosophy, which is Christianity, not your particular whatever. What do I want to say? Not
dogma
Baptist, not
or
no. You're well, you know what I'm saying.
I do. I'm trying to think of
Presbyterian,
it.
Baptist.
Denomination.
Yes, it's not. We don't concentrate on particular denomination at all. We're on one basket. But I do. That's how I describe it. And it's a hugging church. I also say that, which leads people who know what I mean think, oh, wow, that's great. People who don't, I'm sure think, I don't know about this one.
Yeah,
They're standoffish, and that's fine if that's the way they are. All right, what else about the church? Anything?
Yeah, I think, who are the leaders?
Now?
And, well, no, when you first joined the church,
Oh,
and what was the leadership structure like? For instance, now we have council, and we have...
then it was called,
council?
no,
It was called,
something committee, I think, because I was on it a couple of times. Oh, what was it called? Standing committee.
Standing Committee.
There you go. Uh-huh.
And there was one pastor or two. Who was pastor when you first joined? Bob Boston?
Bob Boston was here, and Bert.
And Bert.
Yes. Well, yes, Bert. Bob was the main pastor at that time.
And
And-
Bert Keller was co-pastor.
And I came here because of Bob Boston. Then when I heard he was leaving, he decided to leave the church and made his announcement at a yearly meeting. And I had a friend who knew Bert in Africa. And she said, Jeanne, don't leave that church because Bob's leaving it. You'll love Bert as much or more than you did Bob, so just hang in there. And that was very true. They're extremely different in the way they preach. Bob would tell stories like, oh, the little rabbit and the little Christmas tree that got left on the lot. And I learned about warm and cold fuzzies in one of his sermons, so you can imagine the whole thing was different. He would associate it with the Bible, but Bert is much more, whatever.
Scriptural oriented.
Yes, but not too much. And Bob's back now as a member, his whole family is.
Yes. And, you know, that's one of the things that strikes me about Circular is it has quite a few pastors in the congregation. Yes,
Of
there's Bob Boston, Mary Thomas, Bruce Jeanne, Toby.
Toby.
Van
Yes, Van Buren.
Toby Van Buren. So
Yes.
there are at least 4
That's right.
pastors in the church.
Right. And 2 of them are associated with the Unitarian Church, which way back in our history worked with this church. The ministers used to go back and forth.
Yes. Bert explained that to us in the Circular Journey. And I think it worked that the Unitarian Church split off from Circular Church. And it was because they had so many members. And the pastors would preach 2 sermons a day, each Sunday at both churches.
Change off.
Right, and they would do the one pastor would do his sermon at Circular, and then go over to Unitarian, and then Unitarian, the morning pastor would do his sermon and come back over and do it again at Circular later that day.
We've had a lot of different things in this church, and we'll continue to, I hope.
Can you characterize the most memorable pastor, or do you remember a sermon, for instance?
I noticed that in your paper.
Yeah.
And I tried real hard because a few of Susan Hull's sermons stuck with me for quite a while, but now she related to women quite often.
Was that a first at the church?
Oh no, Susan Hull?
Yeah.
Oh no, the first.
First woman? I don't think so, but...
Oh no, but I don't know one that really, are those herons?
Yeah. They're big.
Oh, they're huge, just don't put them over here.
No, that's why we're not shooting over there.
Oh, we're going to get so irritated because they get
Vernon
everything
did
so
warn us
messed up.
that we didn't want to shoot over there.
Oh, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, where were we?
Well, we're talking about
the
Circular's
sermon.
most memorable pastor or sermon
Well, Bob Boston
for you
is
the most
probably the most memorable because he was so different. But now that I have had Bert and Susan Bowder and Susan Hull, he's very memorable in a different way, not so influential in your religious thinking, but in all your thinking, really, with the bunnies and the trees and things.
When Bob announced that he was leaving, you said he did that at an annual meeting. What was the reaction?
I think it was pretty sad, really. Of course, some people I don't think enjoyed him as much as I did. So he was going into he was going into counseling is what he was doing. Oh, that's something else. We had marriage and family counseling center in the downstairs of Lance Hall for a long time. Kay Sharp, I think, was down there originally.
Will you say that over again?
Yeah. Can we borrow that history back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're just nervous with your hands?
Well,
Yeah,
not
here
really
it is.
nervous, but yeah, you do that if you have anything to play with.
Exactly.
I'll play with you.
You were saying that Kay Sharp.
I think she was instrumental in the marriage and family counseling center being back here. We had a little sign there where the sidewalk turns and you went back to Lance Hall. And Bob went there for a while, I think. Diana Lance Rosen, who's a psychiatrist, was very active in starting that, I think. So, but we did have that. That was quite active, I guess, for a while. And that's what Bob went into.
Yeah, you asked the question about the reaction to Bob's leaving. And we're faced with that again, with Susan Hull leaving.
And it's a whole different thing with Susan leaving and Bob leaving, I
Yeah.
think. The personalities and everything.
Susan Bowder left before that. And,
We just had people leaving, and Mark left.
yes, but that's over 20 years. And I understand that Catholic churches sometimes change every other year, and Methodist churches change every 2 years and things like that.
But they don't vote.
They don't.
They just pick them up and move them.
Right.
You know, the
And
pastors.
So the church doesn't really get attached to any one particular.
No, and I don't know that the church as such has too much to say about who's coming and going.
Right.
Because I've had friends who say, oh, I don't really care for this man's preaching, and I don't know if I'm going to stay here.
Yes.
So there is a difference in the investment that the members make in their pastors here than in maybe other churches where they don't.
Because of
have
the
as big-
kind of church it is and the kind of relationship we all have. Another thing I love about this church, if you go to a church, of course they're bigger churches maybe, after the service, outside, you always have the same little pods of people, if you look. Same little folks get together. And here we're all a big pod. I don't think any particular people gravitate to the same people every week. And they should, because we're scattered all over the city. We don't see each other.
Do you recall that always being the case? Did people come from as far away as Somerville to attend Circular? Or was it?
Yeah, I do. I don't know how many, but
Well, I can think of a few right offhand that drive from Somerville, Monk's Corner,
Goose Creek, Janice.
Hanahan,
Oh yes, is that you?
the Bostons,
The way you said, oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Boston
So
come
they've
from
done that
Hanahan.
for years.
and Sullivan's Island and Folly Beach.
Oh, yeah, I know who you
People
mean.
are coming from a long, a
The
far
word of
direction.
mouth must really get around. Try this church, I think you'll like it.
Yes.
We had, oh, I don't know. Well, I'll say this and you can delete it. We had a member years and years ago, Katie McAfee, who was a free spirit and an artist. In fact, she painted a beautiful picture of the church, which I have now. My friend didn't want it anymore after his wife died. So she said once, you know, Circular is made up of people who don't want to go to church. Now, if you stick that up there and think about it a long time, that separates it in its, not stiffness, in its standardism or whatever. It doesn't fit.
Yes. Well, I think you're right. I've heard different people characterize members of Circular in different ways, like a lot of, what's the word, people who, introverts. The Circular is made up of a
We
lot
can
of
bring
introverts.
them out. Good. We used to have just a couple, and they stood out. Oh my, bless their hearts. Both men. I don't know where they went. They left, moved, I guess, because they were here a long time.
So it sounds as if you're saying that you feel most of the members are extroverts, that they're outgoing, as opposed to being
I
kind
think it's balanced, really. I do. Well, you have so many career people in there now, too. Doctors and lawyers and physical therapists and psychiatrists, and, you know, those people have to be, well, at least in their careers, they certainly have to be extroverted.
What about the community involvement of Circular? Do you think that has anything to do with the makeup of the congregation?
Probably. But another thing I like, we are not blazoned across the front page every time we do something. Like Circular Church has just, or Circular Church has contributed to, or
opened
has,
its doors to PAR, or
yeah.
and you like that.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think you need to have a lot of accolades. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, in fact, I'm the chair of the Publicity and Communications Committee, and no one ever calls me to publicize anything.
Maybe
Oh.
the low
Just
profile
kidding.
is the preference.
Yeah.
I think so, and I think it's better because we do different things. And the more different things you do, the more criticism you get from the diehards. And if they want to be that way, that's great. That's not our affair. But we don't need to be criticized for what we do.
I think this is one of your questions, number 11.
How about